Hey everyone, welcome. I am MisterBo, and in today's video we have a ton of brand new information for Forsaken. Game Informer has revealed that Forsaken is their cover for this month, meaning all month long we're going to be getting brand new information that we've never heard before, and in this video we're going to be covering a ton of information ranging throughout the whole of Forsaken, from the campaign to the Dreaming City, the 8 barons, and a few quality of life changes. Now this is probably going to be a pretty long video, so if there are certain things you want to know information about, in the description below I will leave timestamps for each of the different things I'm going to be talking about. So if you want to go just for the information about, say, the Dreaming City, click in the description below and there'll be a timestamp for that. So without further ado, let's hop into this information. So Bungie is actually approaching this campaign slightly differently from what we've seen in previous expansions. So this campaign will have a few starting missions, with the first mission actually showing you the prison break, and which ultimately ends up with Cade getting killed by Prince Aldrin. Not only that, Petrovenge, who you may be familiar with from the House of Wolves expansion in Destiny 1, will assist us through this mission. Then after you've done those first few missions, you kind of get free reign to do what you want. You can tackle the barons in any order, up to the final 2, which you have to do in a specific order, and then after that you'll then fight Prince Aldrin, which will then lead into the endgame at the Dreaming City with the raid. I like this approach. It really allows you to play this kind of how you want, take your time with these missions, do other things, then maybe hop into fighting one of these barons when you want. So ultimately I think that is a good change, and it'll be interesting to see just how it plays out. Now we know that the main enemy threat in this expansion is the Scorn, the brand new reanimated Fallen, but now we know information about the different classes in that race. So firstly we have the Mongols, which tower over the battlefield, blasting out cascades of lightning that are near impossible to dodge. We then have the Screeb, who are arachnid-like creatures that scramble on all fours and explode like cursed thralls, but only bigger. You then have Raiders, which send out spinning explosive blades of void energy and can teleport. Lurkers carry small gladiatorial shields which block shots until hit in the leg. Ravagers hold spinning lanterns which, when slammed into the ground, create a spout of solar flame unless the lantern is shot first. And finally you have the Chieftains. Much like a captain, they are sort of the main enemy type that are holding all the others together. Now they will throw out one of 3 elemental totems. Firstly, the Solar Totem, which is basically a dangerous spinning turret of flames. You then have the Void Totem, which gives nearby enemies a shield. The Arc Totem attracts guardians to the totem's center, leaving them unable to move away until it is destroyed. Now the Scorn are described as the most aggressive enemy type in Destiny 2, which is definitely going to be interesting to see, because I thought the Hive and the Fallen were already pretty aggressive, mainly the Hive more than the Fallen though. Now Forsaken's campaign takes place in the Tangled Shore. You won't be heading to the Dreaming City throughout it. And the Tangled Shore will actually feature more than just the Scorn. You'll be seeing the Fallen clash with the Scorn, the Hive, and the scattered Red Legion enemies. Now you may have seen him in the Forsaken trailers. There was this big Fallen captain shown off. Now he is called the Spider, and he is the vendor of the Tangled Shore. Now there's an uneasy alliance between the Guardian and the Spider. His spike-back Fallen enforcers often accompany you on subsequent adventures, lending support while rarely wading into most dangerous confrontations. Early on, the Spider wants some new invaders dealt with, and later on he cashes in some more favors to demand yet more work, making you hunt down outlaws from the Prison of Elders across the system. Now these enemies are more spread out and can be in random world locations, for instance in strikes, in the middle of Gambit matches, or in high level lost sectors on old planets. Now I think this is going to be really cool. You're going to be hunting down maybe some people that we've seen from Destiny 1 that were trapped in the Prison of Elders, who knows, but the fact that you're going to be able to go and fight them in strikes, in the middle of a Gambit match they might just appear, and in old lost sectors, making you go and explore some of the ones that you maybe haven't done for a while, because let's face it, lost sectors aren't that great. Now let's talk about the 8 barons, because there's 8 barons you're going to be hunting down throughout the campaign, and as I previously mentioned, you can take on most of them in any order you want. So let's start off with the Fanatic, the leader of the barons and the dark corrupted evolution of the Alexni, otherwise known as the Scorn. Second only to Prince Aldrin's Sov, he views his Scorn as an evolution of the Fallen and the final manifestation of what they were always meant to be, eternal. You then have the Machinist, second in command to the Fanatic and his most ardent follower, expert in munitions, weapon crafting, and in charge of the siege on the redacted. She is an insatiable thief and hoarder with a terrifying arsenal. So it seems that Bungie still wants to keep some secrets here. We don't know where this seed that she's in charge of is located. Is it on some ship maybe that we haven't heard about yet? Maybe a new planet that we haven't heard about yet? We'll just have to wait and see. After that, we have the Mindbender, a mad genius who has been changed by his research into the Hive, and their dark religion has somehow found a means of exercising control over Hive combatants. Next we have the Trickster, a silver-tongued manipulator and con artist with a high opinion of herself. The Trickster has a penchant for deadly sleight of hand and prefers to work behind the scenes when it comes to the Baron's operations. She does all she can to stay out of sight and is known for duping others into doing her dirty work. You then have the Hangman, a silent sadist known for his penchant for docking and tearing ether generators from the cores of servitors with his bare hands. His obsession with torturing servitors is unprecedented in the history of the Alexni. You then have the Mad Bomber, a bombastic thrill-seeker for whom self-preservation is an afterthought. The lunatic known as the Mad Bomber is willing to blow up an entire location to smithereens just to kill his target. The Rifleman, an all-seeing sniper who watches his brother Baron's backs. The Rifleman keeps his target at a distance, plays real dirty, and never misses his shot. Brilliant, cold, and patient. More than one of the Rifleman's notches is a Guardian's ghost. And then finally, the Rider. Anarchist, biker, and leader of her own gang of pike riders, the Rider raises fields and pollutes the air everywhere she and her gang run. She's a master mechanic who's taken the fallen heavy pike and made it better, much better. So those are the 8 barons we're going to be fighting throughout the entire campaign. Each of these barons will feel similar to a strike boss encounter, demanding distinct strategies to match their abilities. So let's talk a little bit about the Tangled Shore, one of the new locations we're going to be going to in this expansion. Firstly, there will be a brand new public event called the Cryo Cell Escape, where a cell from the Prison of Elders crashes down and enemies try to retrieve their captive leader. After a few waves, the pod will open and you'll fight the leader who was once held captive. Not only that, Bungie seems to be making lost sectors a little bit more interesting. For instance, one of the ones in the Tangled Shore contains a fallen black market fighting ring and a chance to learn about the Fallen's bizarre take on a dance club. Fingers crossed we start to see more lost sectors in both the Tangled Shore, and maybe if we get lost sectors in the Dreaming City as well, that are a little bit more story and lore and are a little bit more interesting. So from here we're going to be talking about the end of the campaign and how that leads into the brand new endgame activity, the Dreaming City. So the closing act of the main campaign teases a greater threat, which I've talked about in my previous videos. Now that forces your guardian to turn from thoughts of revenge to something more important. A strange voice calls out to Prince Aldrin from beyond the Awoken Watchtower, within which lies the greatest secrets of the Awoken. Now there are story threads that you'll learn towards the end of the main campaign that will only be fully paid off once you actually beat the brand new raid. So the Dreaming City actually acts as an inspirational location filled with secrets, new activities, a new raid, and dynamic content that will change from week to week. You won't go to the Dreaming City during the campaign, but once you do complete the main campaign, there'll be a quest that will open up access to this destination. The Dreaming City is described as the most picturesque work the developers have produced. The location has been infected by the Taken, and after arriving there for the first time, you are pulled into the Ascendant realm. Now this destination exists in both planes and will take weeks to unravel the mystery. There is a 3-week cycle of how the Dreaming City will appear. For instance, Pet Revenge is the vendor on this location and will actually rotate around the city during that 3-week cycle. Over time, new missions and secrets will reveal themselves. Enemy configurations and power levels change, and the Taken Curse takes a greater hold. At the end of the cycle, a greater secret awaits discovery for the Pinnacle players to confront. So if you want to confront that secret, I would suggest possibly making sure you're a high enough light level. Maybe it's some sort of boss, we don't know at the moment, but I'm assuming you're going to need to be a high light level to face whatever that Pinnacle activity is. Now there is also another brand new public event in this location, and it is a tower defense style mode called Rift Generator. You pick up an Awoken attack pillar to hold off a Scorn invasion. There'll be loot caches providing offerings to take to the Blind Well, a brand new take on wave-based fights similar to the Court of Oryx, Archon's Forge, and of course the newly introduced Escalation Protocol. Now when fighting in this, an entire area gets shrouded in Taken gas, except for the areas you're allowed to fight in. As you work your way around, you get more space to fight, which ultimately culminates in a boss fight. Now around the Dreaming City you'll be finding dropped flasks, which will allow players to briefly glimpse into the Ascendant Realm to face special challenges and travel along platforms and tunnels that don't usually exist. Now of course the Dreaming City is the location for the brand new raid, and right at the centre of the city is the Keep of Voices, which is where the brand new raid takes place. It will continue the narrative introduced with Aldrin's madness in the campaign and will reveal the greater threat looming behind the curtain. Now we do know that new raid layers are planned in the content for next year. As to whether those raid layers will continue the story of this brand new raid or those raid layers will be individual, we don't know at this current time. If we're going off what we've seen before with the Leviathan, they would probably connect, but I know a lot of people weren't really that keen on seeing this sort of same location over and over again with these raid layers, so maybe the future raid layers will be individual stories. We'll just have to wait and see on that. From there we can then talk about sort of the quality of life changes, starting with the director. So the director has actually been redesigned to provide an intuitive guide to meaningful content. For example, flashing destinations when things are happening, and less focus on milestones. Vanguard, Crucible and Gambit tabs are now at the bottom of the screen, making them more accessible, and all of those activities as well as the flashpoint now refresh every 4 days. However, the raid is still being reset on the weekly Tuesday. And not only that, individual strikes are now available on the destinations map rather than only being accessible through a playlist. It always happens when a new expansion comes out, there's obviously new strikes with that and you want to try them out. Now previously in Destiny 2 you've had to play the playlist until that new one pops up, but starting from Forsaken you can select that brand new strike and just play it straight away. Speaking of brand new strikes, one of the new strikes in Forsaken will actually take you through the Prison of Elders to dodge trains and fight on an old battlefield only familiar to the original Destiny players. So it seems like we're going to be going to the locations that maybe were in the Prison of Elders, or maybe we'll be heading to the Reef social space, which is now being, remade into some sort of strike location. We'll have to wait and see. But maybe if we're going through some old locations, we'll also see maybe some old bosses as well. Now let's talk about PvP. Now with every expansion, you'll always get new PvP maps. And that isn't any different for Forsaken, but it is slightly. So with Forsaken, you're going to be getting 4 PvP maps and a brand new game mode called Breakthrough. However, these maps and game modes will not be available at the launch of Forsaken. They will be available a few weeks after. Now Breakthrough involves 2 teams of 4 fighting to capture a breaker, which will allow that team to hack the enemy's vault. Once the breaker is captured, it turns to an attack/defend style game mode, with one team defending their vault and the other team trying to attack it. Now I think that seems like a pretty cool game mode, but I'm a little bit upset this won't be available at launch. Now I feel like the reason they are maybe doing this is to sort of give Gambit a chance. Obviously Gambit is the brand new PvP/PvE game mode, and not having the brand new PvP maps and game mode means that maybe more people are more likely to try the Gambit game mode, and then when they've had enough of that, after a few weeks they'll get these brand new PvP maps and a brand new game mode to try. Now this could work really well, or it might backfire on them and they might get a lot of heat for this. We'll just have to wait and see, but I think Gambit will be very popular and will kind of tide people over until they can play these brand new maps and modes. Now also with all this brand new information, we did get some information on the new subclasses. Firstly, each subclass gets a new tree which will drastically change how the supers work. And on day 1, 3 new subclass trees will be available. However, you'll be able to earn the other trees 1 to 2 weeks after launch. Now Game Informer did provide a breakdown of all of the brand new supers, but there was a lot to go over, so I'm going to be saving that for another video. So if you want to check that out, be sure to stay tuned to the channel because that will be up in the next day or so. This video is already pretty long, so that is why I'm going to be saving that for another video. So there you have it, that is all the brand new information we have at the moment. Of course, we're going to be getting brand new information and possibly gameplay as well throughout the month, and I'll be sure to cover that on this channel for you guys. Now I'll leave a link in the description below to the Game Informer Forsaken hub, where you can check out all of this information as well as the information on the Barons, and there's also a quick fire rapid questions video which I do highly recommend going and watching, and of course all the other brand new information that they'll be releasing will be on that page. That'll be in the description for you. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to give the like button a big old hug, subscribe for more gaming content and coverage, boop that bell to be notified when my future videos go live. Hopefully you guys have an awesome day. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.